Hey, welcome to episode number 9 of Coffee with the Dead. I am your host, as always, Para-Ann. We have an interview. Hooray! Unlike last week. I don't think that ended too badly, though. I wasn't able to do a YouTube broadcast, but I did manage to do a Facebook Live paranormal investigation, actually. So if you are subscribed to the channel, you will see I did upload that video. I did not mark it as a Coffee with the Dead episode because I didn't go live with it, and it wasn't like, you know, my usual format and stuff. It was like a pop-up surprise, like it's Sunday and I need to air something, so that's what it ended up being. Oh, hi Marty, I see you're in chat already. Hi. So tonight we are doing an interview with Stan Miles of the Paranormal Porch as his investigation group, and he has a really cool picture to share with us and lots of fun stories. He's been investigating for like over 20 years. Actually worked with Patrick Bishop, who we interviewed a couple of weeks ago. Bishop Arts and Sciences with the Spook Group. Stan and Patrick have done some investigations together. Actually, if you remember in Patrick's interview, when you hear the EVP of the woman in the hallway saying like Pat's in the hall or Pat's in the hallway, or you know, something like that. Stan was actually there for that, he had said. But at any rate, Sergeant Poodlepants, hi, welcome to chat. I have some new things in the merch shop. We have a whole lot of new t-shirts and fanny packs. We have what else did I make recently? Tote bags, and a lot of fun stuff. I'm starting to really push the neon retro, the 80s logo, the triangle logo there. It looks really good on the fanny packs and as face masks too. I made a couple new face masks, by the way. Just remembered that talking about the retro logo. So definitely stock up. And I am, of course, still booking interviews. I think I have one for next week's set. But after that, we're going to be looking for interviews. Sergeant Poodlepants says there's some lag. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I see a little bit on my end too. Sorry, I guess it's just one of those nights. Maybe it'll smooth out as we go. If it's super bad though, let me know. Maybe I can, I don't know, just go with audio tonight or something if it's too painful to watch. But let me know, like I said, if it gets super laggy. See, anything else new? I re-upped Spirit's Wake, so we're doing the paranormal group back again. Mostly online though, so like that investigation that I did last Sunday would have been a Spirit's Wake broadcast, but like I said, it was show night and I didn't have anything to go off of, so that's what we did. But usually that would have gone on the Spirit's Wake page. So things like that. EVP reveals are going to be now Patreon only. So if you're not already registered on Patreon, go over there, patreon.com/CWTD, Coffee with the Dead, and register. You just have to do the bottom tier, just be the shadow tier. That's $5 a month. But like I said, I've said, in previous episodes, just do it for a month or two. Just get some of the benefits, and then you can cancel, right? So you don't have to be locked in for the full year of recurring payments if you don't want to. I mean, I'd appreciate it, but you don't have to be. And then you can like re-register again whenever, so you can off one, whatever. Every little bit helps, because we all know in this Corona world, everyone's struggling. Lady Liz, you say it's lagging too? I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. If it's super duper bad, like I said, let me know. So we're going to go ahead and bring Stan in. Hey, Stan, can you hear me?
I can hear you quite well.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. Now, I've heard in the chat room that the video seems to be lagging a little bit, so if you have any problems hearing my audio or anything, just let me know.
No, your audio is great. I did notice a little bit of the lag, but, internet sucks. So,
yeah.
What it is.
Yeah.
But no, your lighting is wonderful. Yeah, I'm not sure, because I actually did go ahead and bring you up on YouTube on the phone below the laptop. And yeah, no, your lighting is great. So.
Well, thank you. I do have 2 super bright LEDs above my head, so that helps.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It reflects a very nice blue hue off of your hair there.
Well, that is my hair color, so
Right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 45 years old. I like long walks on the beach and sometimes to the cemetery, and candlelit dinners on boats.
Cemeteries.
No, so I grew up in a small fishing and crabbing town in Colonial Beach, Virginia, and it has some pirate history. As a matter of fact, some of the pirates that used to cruise the Atlantic would bring they would capture boats, bring them through the Chesapeake Bay into the Potomac, and back behind Colonial Beach, they would literally dump the ones that didn't decide to join the crew, if you will.
Oh, okay.
And I always, I don't know, I've always been a bit off, if you will.
Off in a relatable way, I'm sure, because most of us investigators and paranormal folks aren't quite average, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't quite understand at a young age why I was kind of having all these different crazy emotions and different crazy everything. Well, come to find out, I found out in 1994 I'm an empath. And I was kind of connecting to a lot of the dead that was in Colonial Beach and still wandering there. I mean, you figure you got hijacked on the high seas and you got dropped off in, some little cove in Virginia. You're more or less lost.
Right. Now, how did you discover what an empath was? Like, did somebody tell you, or did you just kind of just realize, like, one day, like, oh, hey, this applies to me?
A little of both. It was, like I said, it was about 1994. It hit me like a brick when it is over. Well, yeah. All right. So over the years, it was kind of building up. The problem with empaths, when you don't know it, is that you walk into a room and you literally absorb all of that energy.
It's just overwhelming, especially if you don't know what's going on. You don't know how to filter it. You don't know how to identify it. You just know how you feel, and it's not good.
Exactly. It's quite terrifying.
Yeah.
and can literally drive you insane
Right.
if you don't find a way. If you don't discover you're an empath, I mean, it will drive you insane because you have so many emotions that don't belong to you.
Right. And it causes a lot of social anxiety or even people to become like reclusive, but that only lessens the degree to which you pick up on things. Like as an empath, those emotions and those feelings and all, it's they still find you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I there's countless times when I've been broken down to tears before, even after I knew why it was happening.
I'm the same way. I totally understand.
So, I mean, that was my introduction. My introduction was feeling um, all of these hundreds of thousands of people and emotions, and it's all getting crammed in my head. And at one point, there was, I mean, I've known multiple psychics and people of that nature throughout my life, and they just look at me and they say, "Why are you shining so bright?" I'm like, "I don't know."
It's like, can you tell me? You're the psychic.
You know, you got one of those
Yeah.
little cones that you used to use in Europe, and they just put my candlelight out, please.
Yeah, seriously, just
You
snuff you
know,
out. Just snuff you
just
out.
snuff me, baby, snuff me. So,
Well, Patrick's in chat and he says, "Nice hat, Stan." Now, why is that so funny?
love you, Bishop. Okay, so the reason I wore it is because if I did not wear it, I'd be asked for a week why I wasn't wearing it. This is Roxy.
Okay.
Anybody who's on the feed knows Roxy. She has a life of her own. She has her own website. She's known in more countries than I've ever been in.
Your hat has her
My
own.
hat.
That's beautiful. All right.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, this is Roxy.
Well, hi, Roxy.
Yeah, she's kind of an attention whore.
Is she
But
a haunted hat? You said she has her own personality.
yeah, she does. She does. Everybody knows Roxy.
Okay.
But anyhow, yeah, it was discovering you're an empath, going through the process. Once the first psychic I met, said that to me and said, "You are an empath. You're not crazy."
Mm.
Um, that's when I started doing some research and finding out. Oh my God! Yeah, wow. There you go. This is what's happened to me, And people often ask me, "So, what it's like being an empath?" Well, the example I use is: have you ever walked into your grandparents' house and you just feel that crankiness?
You just know you're there.
You just know you're there.
Like no other house feels like that. Like that's
Exactly.
your grandparents.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is like the most relatable example that I can possibly use. You, even if you're not woken up, I mean, I believe everybody has the potential to be an empath. It's how you are raised. When you're told that invisible friends are just a figment of your imagination when maybe it wasn't.
Right.
Because obviously growing up is a learned behavior. So you just know when you're at your grandparents' house. It's
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
feel. So,
And if you become, woke, so to speak, or if you remember the memories of your imaginary friend, as you grow up, a lot of us block that out and say, "Oh yeah, that was just a kid thing. I don't remember them, but I'm sure I had them. Every kid does." But some of us actually remember our imaginary friends. Like me, I remember all their names. Like I could see what they looked like in my head, but I mean I just have a very vivid imagination or maybe not, I don't remember there actually being anybody in my room with me, but I can see their faces in my head. I still remember them. I could hear their voices. At the time, I thought I was making it up, because in my mind, I would think of what I wanted them to say, and then that's what I would hear, But as
Right.
as an adult looking back on it, and especially having followed the paranormal path and whatnot, I'm like, maybe that's just how I remember it. Maybe that's my logical human brain telling me that, oh, I thought of what I wanted them to say and then they said it, where really that was just live conversation.
Right. And I one of the former members of my team, who may or may not be watching right now, she's got a psychological background, and she would probably say, no, that was just you recognizing certain parts of your personality, and you gave them substance, and explain it in a very logical way. And I don't discredit that. I don't,
Yeah.
because it's extremely possible. And I went through some suffering as a child where if I did not put some kind of face to it, it would have just been even worse.
Yep.
So I had to.
Right.
Because again, like you said, your brain has to organize things in order to make sense of it.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, becoming an empath, I mean, especially being a male empath, that's hard. I'm not going to say it's harder. I'm going to say it's hard.
Now, why would you say it's harder just because you're a male?
Because growing up in the late 70s, 80s, before the West Coast invaded the East Coast,
Yeah.
it was, you're a man. You don't
Cry, you don't feel,
don't
right?
cry. Your emotions are second to your responsibility.
Yeah.
And you handle them quietly. You handle them behind closed door. And when your emotion did come out, it was you heard about the fight at the bar because some guy just irritated you to the point of punching him in the nose.
Right.
I mean,
So it was more your emotions would come out through anger or protective kind of
exactly.
personality traits. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I was a bit of an outcast, is because that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I was very much explanatory. I mean, I would try to talk and figure out what the problem was. I wouldn't just react with violence immediately. And that made me an outcast.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm okay with it.
I mean, you seem fine today.
Yeah, no, I'm cool now.
So in
But,
'94, you realized you were an empath, kind
yes.
of your own accord, and kind of through a friend, kind of pointing it out. Now, how did that develop into? Where'd you go next?
Okay, so where I went next was, all right. I don't know if you've ever been to Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Yes, I have. Yep. Just
Okay.
recently, actually, last month.
Okay. I lived downtown for a period of time, and I had, um, I love history,
Mm.
and there was 170,000 troops that went through Fredericksburg during the Battle of Fredericksburg, and large portion of them never left Fredericksburg.
Right.
So literally walking the streets of downtown Fredericksburg became extremely difficult because I could not walk 2 feet without getting smacked with another emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was dealing with the living, I was dealing with the dead, um, and then I think it was 2014. Yeah, in the summer 2014. I was watching some of these paranormal shows, and I mean, I'm not going to call them out. They do great jobs and so forth, but they weren't showing the respect. I was seeing a bunch of people that were running through cemeteries and houses, 100-year-old houses, throwing a recorder up. Hey, who wants to talk?
Right.
Like,
Or they'd be like verbally abusive to try to get a stir.
exactly, they were instigating.
Yeah.
That's a very solid rule that with my teams and investigating, you do not instigate in a negative manner.
No. Always respect.
Always respect. They're people.
Yep.
Treat them like it.
And if they can interact with us, I mean, how dead are they? Like, there's part of them at least that's very much alive.
Right, right. And as
So,
Patrick could tell you, I did an entire event, and I mentioned it to you, where I had uh, a gentleman that was on a sci-fi show come in, and literally the whole point of it was to teach ethics.
yeah, that's awesome.
So after seeing all this, it literally got just on my nerves.
Mm.
I had been offered an opportunity to work with a community television station, and what 80s kid doesn't want to be on TV, right?
Seriously.
So I kind of combined all that, gathered some resources. I went out on the internet. I found like-minded people. I brought them together, and I created Paranormal Porch. And I've gotten a lot of flack for calling it Paranormal Porch,
Why?
but because it doesn't sound like ghost hunters, kindred spirits. It doesn't have that real catchy, cool name.
There's nothing, no spooky words in it, like.
Exactly. No, it's Paranormal Porch, and literally the silhouette of guys sitting in a rocking chair. Now, people ask me why I did that. Why I did that is because I believe in paranormal unity. I
Okay.
believe I know, because I know a lot of paranormal investigators from here to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is, if you gather all that evidence and you talk to each other and you share what you found, and you share your stories. And then this person may not agree with your evidence, but then you guys talk about it and just figure out the science behind it, the motivation behind it. Some things you just can't damn explain.
Right. And you weren't there with the person when they, had the experience or when they took the picture. I mean, you just there's a going back to respect amongst investigators. I mean, there's just like that you have to acknowledge that you weren't there, just because you've never taken a picture and seen a face or an orb that wasn't actually dust or a bug. I mean, doesn't mean that they didn't and that their picture is automatically fake. I mean, just
Exactly.
talk, just be like, okay, so you have this picture. It doesn't matter what I think of it, but the point is you had a genuine experience. So let's talk about that and break it down and try to figure out what happened.
Exactly. So the reason I used Paranormal Porch, and believe me, I thought hard about this, is because 100, 200 years ago, before the kitchen became the focal point of the house, the front porch was.
Right.
When you would have neighbors come down the road, it's like, oh, hey, Billy, Bob, Gene, Greg, whatever. They'd come on the front porch and they'd sit in the chairs and they just talk about the events of the day, and just chit chat about, William down the street, whatever.
Yeah.
So with the spirit, quote unquote, um, of the gathering and the community, I call it Paranormal Porch. So I kind of, I took that further. I wanted to break open the whole chapter of, okay, we're going to stop walking through cemeteries and just asking random questions to people we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create something where it's part historical documentary and part paranormal investigation, and I'm going to mash those two together. Well, unfortunately, with television, if you don't have the resources and everything, I had some really great and talented people, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera. And it's just one of those things where unfortunately it didn't take off. And I went very public with it. Um, Next thing I know, I'm noticing other shows picking up on that historic part, and they're starting to tell more stories about the people they're investigating. And I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, but it just seems like maybe the people who were a little more connected or had those resources that you didn't maybe were eavesdropping a little and.
Well, yeah, I was told to shut up multiple times, but I didn't listen.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
now you know.
now I know, right? Right.
Sergeant Poodlepants in chat is saying, appropriate to the example you gave about being an empath, the name Paranormal Porch reminds him of gathering on his grandmother's front porch to discuss family news.
Virtual fist bump.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
and
totally.
yeah. So people do know of that pastime.
Yes, yes, good times.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so the TV thing didn't work out.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
what did you do
So,
then?
well, after that, I mean, I still investigated, and then I, I had evidence, I got evidence, and I kind of, I think Grant Wilson um, added into my answer a little bit a while back when they were rebooting Ghost Hunters.
Oh, P.S. You've been virtual fist bumped back.
Oh, um, so Grant they did like a short little 4 second blurb advertising it, and Grant said, we're doing this because we're asking the ultimate question. You know, what happens after death? Is there life after death? And he's right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got to the point where I answered my question. Not only with that picture. I mean, of course, that was when I was 10, but I didn't even do that negative flip until probably what 97, 98, maybe even later. Maybe it was 2000s. I don't remember when I did it, but I had enough evidence to say, you know what, this is not the end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, what happens with us individually after that end is a whole different conversation.
Right.
But I know it's not an end. It's merely the beginning of a different chapter, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I kind of retired, if you will.
Okay.
Um, I did have one last, big thing, which was a big event at Grove Plantation in King George, Virginia. And that's when a very good friend of mine in Europe hooked me up with Brian J. Cano. He was the tech guy on Haunted Collector.
Okay.
He came in and he totally jived with the whole fact that I was trying to teach ethics. This wasn't about, I mean, Grove Plantation has tremendous spiritual activity.
Mm-hmm.
Both very pleasant, very sweet, and also like very not so sweet.
Okay.
And during that investigation, I had the very not so sweet, literally, I guess, let me put a picture to it. When Captain Kirk shot an alien with that damn phaser,
Mm-hmm.
he was kind of like, eh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that.
Okay.
And any one of my team members that's watching right now, Patrick can speak for it. They can tell you.
So it just stopped you right in your tracks, and
it literally shut me down. I mean, talk about embarrassing. So I have a celebrity sitting there helping, a guest,
right.
and I had to turn to Brian and say, Brian, I can't continue. I got hit by something, and I shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting sick. I lost my voice. I'm not allergic to anything, so it's like it wasn't anything medical that would have jumped up, and I had to ask Brian to take over. I was like, I need you to finish this.
Yeah.
I can't do it, And thankfully, he's such a great guy, and he did without a second thought. He's like, yeah, no problem. I got you.
And he didn't give you a hard time afterwards, or like nothing.
No,
everything was
not at
just
all.
chill, and he totally understood and was like, this thing's happening to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
That was in, 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he came back to Belle Grove on a whole different paranormal gig, and as soon as I saw him, he gave me a big hug. He's like, hey, man, you good?
That's how you build the community, and that's how we find answers. That's great.
So anyway, so I did that one, and after that, I kind of, if I'm asked to do an investigation privately, I will do it. And when people's like, I have this situation in my home, I don't know what's going on, but I've heard about you and your team and everything. And I'll be straight up honest. I'll say, look, I cannot tell you, or I cannot get rid of anything. I am not a shaman. I am not a priest,
Right.
but what I can do for you is tell you if you're crazy, or tell you that you're not crazy.
Right. Or tell you like you have a leak in the house or
Yes, because
something like that.
I was a carpenter for 22 years, and I know when it's floor squeaking. I know when there's unshielded electrical wire. I know, um, if there's anything mechanical going on with your house that may make you think it's haunted.
Right.
So that's another tool that I use.
Or even radon, I mean,
Absolutely.
depending on your foundation, underground streams. Oh, these things that we as investigators have all heard, as debunking a paranormal claim and having actual physical or mental effects on the people living there.
hmm I, as a matter of fact, I hate to segue too much, but I had a friend of mine message me earlier today, and she said, what are your favorite, what tools do you use? And she showed me a picture of the K2, showed me a picture of the digital recorder, and, all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, first and foremost, I was like, okay, first off, as I've always said, I've been friends with her since I was 20 some years old, but I was like, look, you are your best tool.
Thank you. I agree.
Yes.
Go with your vibes. Learn to trust your gut.
You are your best tool.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the K2s and recorders and cameras and, spirit box and yada, 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 I view those things as tools to confirm or not confirm
Mm-hmm.
what your gut's telling you.
And they're electronics, so there's things you can debunk about those readings too. Like the K2 meter
I mean,
goes off during a lightning strike.
you can go down that rabbit hole all day long with
Yeah.
electronics.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, perfect example for me, I was investigating 𝕬𝕐𝕚𝕔𝕚 Sanatorium in Radford, Virginia. And I was invited. It wasn't my team or anything. I was invited part of another team. And I walked through this doorway. Well, I was literally stopped frozen in this doorway because my whole body went into shiver. And I asked, I said, does anyone have a K2? Bring an EMF meter to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the investigator's mom, actually, fellow investigator, she came over and she did a K2 sweep, and sure enough, what I picked up on was an unshielded wire.
Oh.
EMF is projected not only from spiritual, electromagnetic fields are projected from the human body, from that spirit, but also from unshielded wiring.
But you could feel that? That gave you a chill?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I could feel it very strongly.
Wow.
There was a large voltage going through an unshielded wire, and it did let off a lot of EMF. If you hold your K2 next to a microwave, even when it's off,
well, it will go up, but I mean,
Exactly.
could everyone else feel that spot too? Or
They could if they were not. Oh, yeah. At the investigation, yeah, there were a couple other people that could feel it.
okay.
But once again, you get to a situation of individuality. It's like when people are told to ignore their feelings, they're told to ignore their gut,
Yeah.
and they rely so much on electronics. There are, what, and Patrick, I hope you're hearing me right now. Dude, I think you would be a hell of an empath if you, I don't know, I know you're good with electronics and your experiments and everything, but I could completely see you being an empath if that door was open. And maybe you were as a little kid, I don't know.
This is very technical minded.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's why I brought him on my team. That's why I invited him. I said, you will show the logical, the scientific.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great filter for people who get too excited or want an experience too badly. Then, people like Patrick are there to be like, look, there's no science happening here. Calm down.
Thank you. Yes. And that was one thing I prided Paranormal Porch on, was the team was, I gathered people from each. I had a demonologist. I had a person with a psychological background. I had these, the scientists, the all that, and it still breaks my heart that it didn't take off. But what happens in that situation is that you get so many different views. It's very hard to be the mediator when you're the empath.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyhow, after that, so I mean, I guess for the last, since 2018, last 2 years, I've been more or less, if you have a problem, I'm going to help you. I've been called out in the middle of the night to go to an SPCA because someone got hit in the back of the head and there was no one else there.
Oh, okay.
Um, and that night, unfortunately, the other investigator that I brought with me, because you never investigate alone, um, psychic, psychic medium, we both audibly heard a man coming down the hallway saying, "Hey," but there was no one else except for us in the room, and it was what, one, two, three females and me. And I
So
didn't say, but we didn't catch it on recorder. So
it doesn't. Isn't that funny? I mean, it's a clear voice. It sounded like it had to have been a living being. Like the volume's just as loud as you guys talking to each other. Like everything. It sounds. There's nothing weird about the voice. Like you're just like, yes, that is a human male in the hallway coming towards us. And
well,
everyone hears it at the same time. It's not like you got a placebo effect where you said you heard it and then someone else says, "Yeah, I think I did too," and then the whole room has heard it. Everyone reacts at the same time, but yet your recorders get nothing.
exactly.
Is
And
That's just like, well, what are you supposed to do? And that all falls back to respect. Like you had a genuine experience. Like no one
yeah,
can tell you that didn't happen.
oh, absolutely. And the funny thing is that it was the voice that we all recognized, but that particular male was in Georgia.
I mean, did you later check in with him? Like, was he?
He didn't even know I was there. He didn't know that investigation was happening. I literally got called on a 911 by someone I didn't know. And the only reason they called me is because we had done an investigation there prior.
Previously. So did you later go back to that guy and say, "Were you like thinking of us? Did something happen to you? Because we all heard your
Oh yeah,
heard."
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No,
And
and
had
Bill,
something happened on his end?
no, he is a huge skeptic. I mean, I still got the footage
Because
of
that
when.
sounds like like almost like astral, or like some
Right,
kind of
right.
like telepathic like projection on his end. Like, but it was just
Not at all. He
completely
did not.
anomalous.
He is currently, as far as I know, still the owner of that SPCA, and he is a major skeptic. Um, I I still have footage of the reveal that we did and made him when we played a certain piece of evidence. He had to get up and leave the building because his mind just would not wrap around it.
Right. I can
You know,
Yeah, I can understand that from someone who's like
would
dedicated
not
to being
wrap
a
around.
skeptic. When they
Yeah,
have an experience, like yeah,
former
it's overwhelming.
former military. And the thing is that the piece of evidence that we caught was captured at his house.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
So
Um,
that took him for a trip, yeah.
yes.
So
I
I
was.
mean, do you think maybe would you go to the idea of like a mimic as far as projecting his voice?
Yep. Because his voice is very well known there. And my my later thoughts was that they wanted our attention. They knew we all knew him.
Like a trickster or something.
Oh, they
Maybe.
are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, tricksters are out there.
Yeah.
So kind of like Bruce Willis said, old Satan Claus is out there, and he might get you.
Yeah, yeah. I always say if it's something that you can hear audibly with your own ears, or like immediately walking into an investigation and you hear something or whatever, I always say those. Not always, it's true, but 90% of the time, I always say those are the lower vibration spirits, the lower vibration energies, the ones that are like looking to attach themselves. Maybe the ones who aren't aren't the most pleasant, but they need more energy to really become. what they are.
Yeah.
But the ones that actually have to work for it a little that you may not pick up on until, an hour into the investigation, or you just hear on the recorder or something. I think those, like, those might actually be, more whoever they project to be. But who knows, right? Every experience is different. That's why you have to experience it and feel the vibes and go with the mood of the location.
Absolutely.
So we have Jack Miles is in chat.
That's my son.
Oh.
Hey, Crash.
Well, he's asking what are some of the clearest things you've heard that you wish you had caught on recording.
Oh, honestly, son, that was the clearest. I mean, I've heard whispers. I've heard just things that, was it a voice? Was it a car? Was it a bird? I didn't have equipment. I didn't have anything to verify, debunk. It was just me hearing something. And so I cannot sit there and say that I had a solid, audible voice that, and the reason that I even brought that story up was because there was 3 other people in the room that will verify it. Yeah, so Jack, that was the most audible voice I've ever heard.
You also got a hello from 𝕚𝕚𝕚𝕚.
Oh, that way.
He says, long time no see.
Yeah, no kidding, brother, no kidding. Yeah, that's been a long time.
So, okay, so that's got us caught up to the present now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the picture that you and I were discussing previous to the interview, I want to get into that story, and I'm going to show everyone the image. So, when did that? You said you were about 10 years old. Tell us the story.
Okay, 1985, Pony Beach. It was summer. I was wearing a 𝕍𝕚𝕤𝕚 number 7, shirt.
Okay.
Anyhow, yeah, you can't really see in the picture, but man, I missed that shirt. Okay, sorry. Side story. So I was in the front yard playing catch by myself. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so it was just me playing catch. And this car pulls up in front of my yard, and this, very attractive young lady steps out, and she puts her hand on, or her, she goes like this on the top of the car. Says, "Are you Stan?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." "Where are your sisters?" And 3 other girls proceed to get out of the car.
So 4 women claim to be your sister?
Yes.
Okay.
4 of them got out of the car.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting there with a football like, "Hey, Wilson, is this actually happening?"
Right.
But, yeah, so, I mean, you want to talk about a nervous 10-year-old.
Yeah.
So they came up, and I'm like, I'm a little skeptic, but at the same time, I was brought to be polite. Yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Right.
And then she was like, yeah. And she mentioned my father, which I hadn't met at that point. I knew his name.
Mm-hmm.
And she talked about my mom. And maybe I was gullible, maybe I wasn't, I don't know. But my gut said was like the happiest little 10-year-old, because up until that point, I thought I was alone. I totally thought I was alone.
Okay.
So we talked, and then
like your mom had always told you that you're the only child. There's no others.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
Yeah. Right.
Let's not go down that road. But anyway, so we went up into the apartment and everything, and we're, I'm showing him my Atari.
Yes.
What to do at this point? Hey, I got Transformers down the hallway.
Right.
So they wanted to take pictures and everything, and so we got together, and literally in this picture you can see a little 10-year-old boy geeking out, probably the happiest he'd ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I'm going to leave it at that.
So this picture that I'm showing now has you and three girls.
There's one kneeling down next to me.
Yes.
There's one to my left, one to my right.
And these are the three that got out of the car.
The fourth one is holding the camera.
Okay.
Because, for you youngins back in those days, you actually couldn't take, you could take selfies, but it's extremely difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was like a little Canon or Kodak, sorry. Little Kodak camera about yay big.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are three of the four women who got out of the car here with you, and this was taken the day that this all happened.
Yes.
They didn't stay, they left right after?
Well, yeah, they had to go back to Richmond where they lived, but we made plans to see each other again, and we did, and that's when I met my dad.
Okay.
And the rest is history, but yeah, that's the moment right there. And that little dork right there with the Redskin shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's you. That's the shirt you miss so much.
Yes, I do.
So, all right. So, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, and you can see this color photo with the three women here standing behind Stan. And then if you look at this photo, he inverted you. What'd you do? You explained the other one, Stan. You said you had inverted the colors.
Well, here's the thing. So some years ago, my sister Sheila, who is the one over my right shoulder,
Yeah.
she found this picture. I had completely forgotten it even exists, and I don't know if it was in the 90s or 2000s. She sent this picture to me, and I'm like, I'm having a moment and everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, something's off. It just, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, whatever, but at that time I was kind of into, had a little photography company, and I would always pretty up the pictures. I wanted to clear it up.
Right.
But I did something, I don't know, I hit the negative button. And I switched it to negative.
Okay.
I don't know why. I just did. That's all I did. And that's what I found.
So this is the negative image that we're looking at right now. And the first thing I said when I saw this picture, I said to you, "Oh, I see two dogs." But you said you get that a lot, but the way you interpret it is very different.
Correct.
And so explain that.
Well, I'd like to know, when the other folks in the feed, what do you see when you look at that picture? Without me saying anything, what do you see?
I think there's a little bit of lag, so we might have to wait an extra minute or so for that. So while we wait for that all to catch up and for folks to start answering, I will say, Mariana Han says, Bella says hi.
That's her bird.
Oh, that's awesome. Aw.
Hi, Bella.
Aw. And then Wade is saying, ask Stan about cleaning Dar's place sometime.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess while we wait for people to kind of look at the picture and tell us what they see in that, tell us about Dar's.
Okay, Dar is an extremely, extremely talented EVP specialist, and she was on my team for that purpose. She lived outside of Dumfries, Virginia, if anyone's familiar with that.
Yep.
About a slingshot away from a lot of Civil War activity, Civil War graves, and so forth. Well, her home had some entities in it, entities that would at some point be very unhealthy for Dar.
Okay.
So we went in. It was myself, a shaman, actually, and Wade. Wade, I'm so sorry. I'm not really sure which shoe you fit in there. shaman. If you can answer that, that'd be cool. Um, but there was some serious McNasties in there,
Hmm.
and yeah, I call the bad one McNasties.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Once you get to a certain level, you get the Mick title.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
title. Um, I mean, there was 3 floors to that place, and in the middle floor, we were kind of searching through a room, and I walked into this one area, and oh, and we also have to touch base about the grumpy old man because I need to correct something, but um, it's like I walked right into a bully, like nose to nose with a guy that was, you don't belong here, get out of here. I don't want you here. I want to punch you, but I can't.
Now, Wade is saying he prefers thanatologist.
Okay, thank you, Wade. I can't pronounce that. So,
I think I did. I don't know.
Thanositologist. What?
Yeah.
Um, so after that initial investigation, Wade and the shaman went back in, and they did what they do to clear the house. Because there was some serious bad stuff going on, and it was affecting my investigator's life to a point where it was making her very thin, very weak. She was still feisty as hell, but
Yeah.
it was really having some detrimental effects on her. Wade, I'm so sorry. I don't remember many details.
Well, he said that he still has the rancid jar of liquid, and I did pronounce it properly.
Uh, dude, flush that crap. um, yeah. So
So they were cleansing.
yeah, they cleansed, and as well now you know that Wade took it home with him.
Yeah. But where did it come from? Where did this liquid come from?
Um, wow, you might have to interview Wade for that one.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
It didn't come out of the woman or any, like.
I'll be honest with you, straight up. Wade's getting to a point where I cannot explain it because I am not knowledgeable enough
Because
in that
you weren't
area.
in the room for that, or. Okay.
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
No, the shaman and I did an initial investigation, and then that shaman and Wade went back to do the actual cleansing.
Well, very good then. I guess maybe Wade, I might follow up with you on that because rancid liquids mysteriously presenting themselves is always a interesting conversation.
Yeah, he would be a very good one to talk to about that one because he knows a lot more about that than I do.
So he said the shaman had blessed the water, and as we drove stuff out, it blackened the water. Oh, so you were basically using like holy water, or well, blessed water, but similar to holy water for those of you who might be questioning what blessed exactly means. And the energies then absorbed into that water and created this like rancid fluid that he still has today.
Yeah,
And it smelled like sulfur, which many demons, negative entities tend to have the sulfur smell to them. So,
yes.
so that makes sense. Unsurprised there.
Wade, never keep the dirty bong water, dude.
No.
Just don't do it.
It's sealed, right? They can't get back out. Just don't drink it. Oh gosh. Anyway, so going back to your picture, people in chat have had time to give their input and review it. And Jack is saying that he sees a face on the left side of the picture. That's where you had pointed one out to me, Stan. And Sergeant Poodle Pants is saying there's a face over your sister's right shoulder. Now that one, I'm not too sure about where I see one directly above her head that looks like the dog that I saw. Just people are just saying, and Lady List says faces. She sees a face. So nothing too specific. Just seems to be 2 faces there in various places. So.
So what I saw initially, and Jack is correct, and also I think the other person's correct. If you look at that face, what I saw
The one down here on the left, like middle of the picture.
over my sister's right shoulder, so on
Mm.
the left of the photo.
Right here around, yeah. So for those of you watching, I'm kind of circling it with the mouse cursor. It's right beside her face. There seems to be another face.
There is, if you look at it, you will see a very definitive cheekbones, the hairline, and actually, you really look at it, you will even see an earring in his ear. Um, Now, my first thought when I saw that was the pirate history, um, but that's just me loving pirate history. Uh, but the one thing that always stands out is, my God, that dude had a honker.
Yeah, I do see a big
Nose,
nose. I
the
yeah.
nose is like so discombobulated.
It makes sense when you think of pirates though, because they had like the lot of rosacea, and they had like the bulbous kind of noses from like they just living off of alcohol basically, right?
Yeah, it was grog. It was a
Yeah,
mix of water and rum and and alcohol,
right,
with lemon or lime or whatever citrus fruit they could get a hold of to keep scurvy away.
right.
Um, so I mean, the long-term effects of that, yeah, I don't know. I've
Mm.
never been on the ocean that long.
Yeah,
So maybe my nose would get looking like a proboscis monkey. I don't know.
right. I mean, you figure they're like overly sunburned and
Right.
probably have scurvy anyway,
Yeah.
and nothing but alcohol to drink. So I'm sure you're
So
gonna look a little funny.
yeah. Now, I mean, I will completely admit over the years, because that was my initial thought, and I will never unsee that.
Hmm.
So that's why, and this is with any reveal. I never, and it actually annoys me when people do this. I never tell people what I see before they tell me what they see.
Because the placebo effect. I mean, then that's just
Oh,
going to they're going to see what you say.
yep. Because that is what the mind will wrap around. And
Yeah.
I, if they say something completely different, I mean, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally cool with that, because that's new information I didn't have.
Right.
So that really helps me as a human being. My mind is going to create something. I need someone else to come in and say, okay, well, I see this, and that's going to make me question. And as long as you're questioning, then the more answers you're going to get.
And as long as it's polite, respectful conversation, it's all good. Where we lose it, and what I see so much of in amongst investigators, and more so amongst groups, it's like groups versus groups almost anymore. And I hate to use the term versus, but it feels like that, where it's like this group has this opinion, and because they announced it first, that's it. That's the answer. And any other group that comes up with
Yes.
their opinions after the first announcement is
Yes.
like that group, the first group, will bash them and discredit them and become very defensive to maintain that they found it first and that they're right and they should get the credit for it, and there can be no it's just it's competitive, and I don't follow that. That's why I'm not very big in the paranormal investigating community, just for those reasons, because it's such drama, but
Hmm.
I'm just like you, where if someone comes to me and says, hey, can you come check out this place, there's something going on, then me and like two or three people that I trust will go out and do it, no charge,
Hmm.
but I'm not calling myself a full-blown public investigation group. I don't it's just that social circle, unfortunately, is very tainted.
Yes. And there are a lot of people that agree with you.
It's
Uh,
sad because it should
you
not
know,
be like that, and it wasn't like that like 30, 25, 30 years ago, but now, because I guess, I don't know, the more trendy or more popular it's all became, people get competitive because now they know they're not the only ones.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if people want to argue with a point, I'm all for it. But have a point.
And come with the facts.
Have
Give
a
me,
point.
yeah. Come with like a quotation. Come with some evidence. Come with something to back yourself up with besides like your opinions.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Otherwise, it's just a conversation.
Yes. So yeah, and as far as that picture goes, that is the first clearest piece of evidence as far as a picture goes I ever saw. Um, the second, unfortunately, I do not have a copy of it. All I can do is tell you about it. Was at a preliminary interview at ℚ𝕚𝕚𝕚 Plantation. Um, the very same house that Brian and I were standing in because I had taken him over there. I had seen this photo and I talked to a few different investigators that was going to come and help with the groups and all that. And I said, I got a bad feeling about this. Like, so the photograph was taken from outside through the front door. And what you can clearly see is a very tall, thin man. And beside him, there were two, maybe 3.5 foot tall, what I saw as very demonic looking creatures. The only thing I could compare them to were imps in lore.
Oh, okay. So did they have the red eyes or?
They were glowing.
They were okay.
I cannot remember if they were. I mean, it wasn't like 4K HD photograph, So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
for those of you listening, an imp is a little more solid than a shadow figure, and it takes the shape of a human form. So no detail. You won't see texture. It'll be the shadow. Solid shadow. So it's not the outline, actual like solid shadow. Like if someone cut you out of like construction paper, and stuck you out in the real world, that's you, like 4D construction paper humanoid image, okay? But otherwise completely featureless, except for the glowing, typically red eyes, but in this case, is just glowing eyes. That's usually indicative that the imp, like those of you who have heard of like the black-eyed children, their eyes are completely all blacked out. So very similar, except imagine their whole bodies are black and their eyes are glowing. Just to give you a mental image of what this is.
So I saw that photograph and I proceeded to talk to my friend who's a demonologist, and I said, man, Phil, I don't feel right about this. If I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing, it's going to be on me that I'm bringing people that could be completely unaware of any of this. Something gets attached to them. They take it home, and then something horrible happens to them.
Yeah. Now the thin man that you saw, that was also some kind of entity. That wasn't a person.
That actually through multiple sightings. There's another photograph of him that was taken at the last time I was there. Okay, so that particular piece of property, when it was a plantation, there were slaves. The overseer was accused of horrendous acts against the slave women and children. And in the 1960s, 70s, the person who was the caretaker there was accused of roughly the same thing. So,
but there weren't slaves at that point.
No, there weren't slaves, but of people being brought back into that house. I think it might have been family members. I don't remember exactly, but I remember when I heard the story that other caretaker had been accused of roughly the same horrendous acts.
So I'm starting to get an idea here, but let me hear what you're going to say. I think we may be thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we got the same idea. So that night I had enough of them say, look, Stan, you just tell them, hey, look, there might be some stuff in there. Just be protected, protect yourself, grounded. If you're an empath, make sure you're grounded. And bring your crystals, your protective crystals, whatever. But
Right.
don't shut it off. And Brian was like, dude, I get where you're coming from, but if they want to be investigators, you got to let them be investigators. And I'm like,
Well, that's true, but when it comes to negative
but as long as I
entities,
tell them, and I did tell them.
give them a heads up, sure. Okay.
Yes, and I did tell them. So that night, when we all gathered back at the manor house for the reveal, multiple people caught the same EVPs
In the same places.
in the same room in that house.
But they hadn't been together when they
they went in as a group.
Okay, and they stayed together.
And they stayed together in that room.
You.
So when each one played the EVPs and they were the exact same on different recorders, and what they were women screaming, saying he's going to kill us. And it was very clear.
That's awful.
There were also possible children on the EVPs.
So Patrick's in chat, and he says Belle Grove, this is the house you're talking about right now?
Correct.
He said that was also President James Madison's plantation, correct?
He was born there.
He was born there.
Yes, the actual manor house sits on top of where the cabin where he was born originally sat.
So he never lived in the plantation house?
No, not that house specifically.
Gotcha. But on that property. He grew up there and everything.
Yes, he grew up on that property.
Okay.
Now, of course, being a major Civil War area, you've got Civil War soldiers rolling through there. You've got Revolutionary period families rolling through there. Like I had said earlier, Belle Grove has a wonderful, wonderful history. It has a lot of good spirits. It's just that one little section of soil where that caretaker's cabin sat 150, 200 years ago. And yeah, I think it's something there. I actually told the current caretaker who runs everything, I said, your best bet, burn that house down and bless the soil. Right. And do not build anything on it again.
Yeah. So it's the land in this case, not so much the building.
Yeah. I think there was an atrocity. Maybe it was the atrocity during that slave period that caused those imps to show up.
And do you think it's possible that either the spirit of this caretaker or these imps are somehow manipulating current, or at least from the 60s and 70s you had mentioned that was the last violent occurrence?
That I can recall. I mean, I want to say someone lived in there as up until the 80s.
Okay.
But it's been taken ever since.
You think maybe these imps or maybe the caretaker spirit might somehow be manipulating these events to happen? Maybe not so much possession, but at least somehow having something to do with like
some influence.
Some
because the two scenarios are so similar.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. That's my thought.
Yeah. So that's a lot of bad, a lot of good mixed in. So you've kind of seen it all over the years, huh?
I will never say I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of shit.
No, a lot.
Yeah.
So go ahead and correct me on about the old man. Were you not actually there when that happened?
The old man.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were opening the show, and you mentioned about What was it you said exactly?
I said that you were there for that investigation when that EVP was captured.
Okay, that's not correct. So my team and I went to Deep Creek Vintage. It was an antique mall, and we were considering doing an episode of Paranormal Porch there. So we had interviewed the owner, and we were kind of getting the initial walkthrough with Patrick and everything. Because I mean, I'll tell you what, Patrick Bishop is as far as I'm concerned, and Patrick, don't get like that. You are the foremost expert on the paranormal activity in that building, and it's such a shame that it's shut down now. So one of the other investigators, Rob, and I had gone upstairs down this. It was almost like a hidden hallway, kind of like what Patrick was saying. We had set up some cameras and all that, but I kept getting this draw to this back room. And so Rob's behind me. We go, and remember that grandfather example I used earlier?
Yes, yes. When you know you're there?
It was like I was about to walk in a room where I knew my granddad was pissed off, and he was about to pull his belt and beat my ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, forgive my language, but...
You're fine.
um,
But that same kind of energy, like almost like triggering a childhood memory kind of energy, like...
No, my grandfather never whipped my ass. But, but no, I mean, I kid you not. So as I'm standing at the door, I think I even recall looking at Rob and saying, dude, I feel like my grandfather's in here, and he's pissed off.
Yeah. So
I got that pressure on my chest, just pushing and pushing, but I took one step inside the doorway, and I'm like, do you want us here? And I don't remember if I had a recorder in my hand. I don't remember, but I know I felt like, hail to the no, get out of my room.
Okay.
So we go ahead and leave because, like I said, I don't instigate. I don't do any of that crap. We went back downstairs, sat at the table, and Rob was like so excited, So he's like, I'm going to go back upstairs and I'm going to see if I can, at least take a picture or whatever.
Okay.
He goes upstairs. He steps in the room, and as soon as his screen starts focusing, it shuts off. Well, he had a fresh battery in it. So he turns it back on. There's nothing wrong with his camera. And as it starts focusing again, it shuts off.
I've had that happen. It's super annoying. They like to play sometimes.
And I want to say it was the third time
Mm-hmm.
turned it on. And he snapped a picture. When you snap a picture with a flash, there's a high point to the flash before it fades out.
Some lens flare or like or on the actual lens itself, the actual bulb, you mean?
Well, no. You see it in a dark room. It's the high point of the flash before it fades out.
Yes.
Okay. Rob came back down, giddy as a schoolgirl, but also about stark white. Because he said in that millisecond, he saw him standing right dead in front of him. His face formed, and then as the flash went out in that second millisecond, he vanished.
But nothing showed in the picture.
Patrick, say yes or no, I don't believe so.
Patrick is also saying, said negative entities have a reputation for being attracted to and attempting to influence those who are compromised in some way. The mentally ill, those struggling with addiction, etc. Hence, the overseer during slave days attracts them, and more recent caretaker gets influenced. And then he thanked you for your compliment.
Yeah.
He said it's always challenging to separate ego from any endeavor, especially one in which others are involved.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. So, I
But yeah,
get.
so as far as that situation goes, that was the extent of it. Um, and the other experience that you had explained at the opening of the show, that was a different investigation.
2 different days. Okay,
Yeah, that was.
you weren't there on that investigation.
Yeah, correct, correct.
But
Yeah,
you had investigated previously, and Patrick was with you though.
yes, he was in the building.
He was in
Yes.
the building. Okay, very good. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't want to take any credit for anything I didn't have anything to do with.
Well, I appreciate that because you know how it gets.
Yes, I do. Very much so.
So anyone in chat, we're gonna start to kind of wind down and wrap up here in the next 10 minutes. So, if anyone who in chat has any comments or other questions that they have for Stan, go ahead and chime in. And Stan, if you have anything that you'd like to wrap up with, like what are you doing these days? What are you doing like currently?
I'm just a lowly old carpenter.
Just just hanging out doing carpentry, huh?
Yeah, no, no, these days. I mean, after all that, I started managing a local television station. That it was community television, So, and then I started another show called History Underground, where I would go to local museums that people don't really get to hear about a lot, and I'd interview the curator, do a short tour of the museum, and what the reason I called it History Underground was because I wanted to go to towns where they had excavated artifacts that tell the story of the town. I did 2 in Fredericksburg. I did one in Port Royal, Virginia. And they're all out there on YouTube and everything. But, I don't want to get into the whole history debate, tearing down statues, yada, yada, yada. But I'm a very strong believer in knowing your history is a good roadmap to your future.
Indeed. Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want to check out some of the stuff that I did with History Underground, you can find it on Facebook. Fredericksburg.
I'll post those links in the show notes too.
So, yeah, and all that stuff.
Yeah, very
That's
good.
kind of what I did. I went into the history realm. It's being a paranormal investigator is very difficult in this area because you can privately talk to business owners and they're like, "Oh my God, my restaurant's haunted."
Right, but
I'm
they
like,
don't want it.
"Cool.
No.
Hey, let me come in there. Let me bring my team, and we'll figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, we ain't doing that.
No.
Yeah, I don't want nobody to know because then nobody will come to my restaurant. And,
Yeah, I had the same experience. There's a historical town near me, small little historical town called ℙ𝕙𝕤𝕦, which actually lost the vote for the nation capital by 1 vote.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, but the war 1812 came through and all that, so there's the whole town was burned, the whole thing. So a lot of places are still historically preserved and whatnot, and there's a lot of activity all throughout the town. I actually got my first EVP before I knew what EVPs were in front of the ℙ𝕙𝕤𝕦 Lighthouse.
Oh wow.
But I investigated 3 of the bed and breakfasts in that town, and they all said, "Do not post any findings online. I'll let you come in because I want to know as the owner, but consider this a private investigation."
Yeah.
So that's how it is. So I can't even be like, "Oh, let me make a name for myself." This is more just community service. And that's fine, put the owner's minds at ease or confirm some of the things that they think, have been experiencing or whatever. That's fine. It all depends what you want as an investigator. Do you want the popularity, or do you just want to be a service?
And that's kind of where I was at with this. Like originally when I wanted to do a TV show, it wasn't about being the next guy wearing skinny jeans. It was about, opening up people's minds to who are we investigating? Why were they important to that location? Because each and every and to this is to every investigator and person listening right now. Every single person has a world within themselves. They have friends, they have family, they had thoughts, ideas, emotions. And when we all pass over, that doesn't go away.
Right.
You don't just become your own personal Ouija board. I mean, you have to respect the fact. It's like one rule of a good friend of mine, MJ Dixon in Europe. She's the founder of Sage Paranormal, if anyone knows who that is. But one rule: you respect the people that you are trying to talk to. You talk to them like people.
Yes.
Don't just walk in and say, "Hey, what's it like being dead?" How do you know they know they're dead?
Yeah. I usually say, "Hi, is anybody in the room with me?" Like I say, like I'm speaking to a human. I say, "Is anybody? How are
Yeah,
you?"
I mean, because imagine you're sitting there, you died in 1852, and then now we don't know how time passes over there.
Right.
We don't. But they see the changes. They see all the dress fashions. They see all the cars changing. They see all that stuff. And then one day some JA walks up and says, "Hey, you're dead."
And they're just like, "Wait, what are you talking
What?
about?" Yeah, it can be jolting.
Yes, yes.
and
So,
and then it gets deeper too. It's like the whole thing about the parallel dimensions. I mean, do they really? We would assume, sure, if they're on our realm, yes, and able to interact with us, yes, they've seen all these changes, But if you want to go into like parallel dimensions and things, alternate timelines and things like that, did their timeline just stop when they passed over and to them everything looks like it did in 1858 or whatever, and they see us as like this strange looking in strange clothes, strange hair, strange paint on our faces, makeup for women and things like in the 1858 setting, or are we even visible? Do we come across as a ghost to them?
kind of like that Nicole Kidman movie. What's called The Others?
Yeah.
No. What was it called? It was the one where she was living her life, but come to find out, her and her kids were dead.
Wasn't it the others?
Was it The Others? I don't know. Somebody speak up.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
really bad with names, but that sounds
yeah.
familiar.
So,
Um, so I mean, that's exactly right. Be respectful. Don't assume just because they've passed over that they know they've passed over.
yep,
And a lot of these, hauntings and residual energies come from tragedies, violences, deaths before their time, people who weren't expecting to pass over. Not they weren't always just ill and or dying of old age, or they're children, they're in their 20s, they're in their 40s, they were abused, they had a car accident, the list goes on and on. I mean, just deaths before their time. So they had a whole life to plan,
yeah,
so they're still very alive and still very like, okay, I want to go do this thing. Why isn't tomorrow coming? Why am I stuck in this like Groundhog Day, or whatever?
poor Bill Murray.
I know. Patrick says the others is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but like that's one of my main rules is definitely always respect, and the more if you follow me after tonight or not, whatever, but you'll notice a theme of me. The only thing I might ever consider myself preachy about is being safe, using the buddy system, and always get permission. Don't trespass to do an investigation. It's never worth it from a safety point of view because you don't know the layout of the land, and also
Right.
just from a legal point of view. I mean, you really want to have to pay a fine or go to jail or have some dude come out with a shotgun and shoot you. I mean, there's a story from Ghost Hunters. A little girl thought that she was so influenced, right? So she went out with her friend to a cabin that she knew to be abandoned out in the woods. It wasn't abandoned. There was a man living there, and he shot her point blank in the face with a shotgun. Okay, and she was like 14. You know, she was very young. So I always talk about that story as an example that, like, you know, I'm not just saying that it's a safety risk. I'm saying, like, things have happened to people. So it's important. Just follow, like, logic and respect, get permission. And also, you know, it really helps. Like, don't get overly excited and jump right into the investigation either. Do your research. Learn the history of the land. What was there before that building? You know, who all lived there. Go to town hall. Get city records. You know, do the quote unquote boring, you know, research stuff before you do your investigation. You know,
virtual high five.
Yes, right back at you. Like, know what you're getting into. It helps conversing with the spirits. It'll help boost your chances of getting EVPs if you can talk about relatable things. And also, you know, just protect yourself. I mean, it's common sense to me. But those are the things that I really just, like, you will hear me harp on so often. It's just, those are like my things.
Yeah, no, hey, and they're all very good points.
Thank you.
There's just so, you know, for a while, you know, there was so much of a lack of respect.
Yeah.
And if, you know, you walk into a place, you know, first of all, investigating is not like you see it on TV.
Oh my God, I say this a lot also.
You will sit in a room with a recorder, being nice as cherry pie, talking to yourself for 3 days before somebody talks back.
That's exactly what last week's episode was, because I did a live investigation last Sunday, and I had to keep reminding everyone watching that, like, yeah, look, it's a lot of just sitting around.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a lot to say, you know, because you sit there, you listen, you feel it out, you know, you make mental notes or physical notes on a notebook or whatever, but it's not like, you know, stuff flying at the walls or, you know, apparitions coming up at you and being like, hey, I'm the haunter. No, it's not like that.
Yeah, no, you don't get possessed every 5 seconds.
No, despite what you see on TV. No.
Everything's not a demon.
No, I promise. Despite what some people tend to think. But they are doing quite well for themselves with that opinion. So good for them.
And 9 times out of 10, when you hear something growl, it's your cameraman. It's his stomach.
It's him snoring. Yeah. No, 100% yes. Or it's your stomach growling, you know.
It's your stomach growling.
one of them.
Eat some crackers, people.
So Patrick is going back to now I'm sorry, I can never remember the name. Belgrove, yes. He says, to clarify that story, he said he was standing on Rob's left side when he tried to snap the picture. And Patrick also saw the image of Grumpy Man come up on the camera screen.
Okay. Forgive my lack of memory. I'm no spring chicken.
And then he said also he was trying to shoot. So Rob, I assume, was trying to shoot video, and Grumpy Old Man kept turning off the camera, which is what you said with the camera going off so many times.
Yes.
And then Sergeant Poodlepants is saying the account of the caretaker reminds me of a story I heard about Aleister Crowley's house being a corrupting influence for anyone that moves into it. So, like, tainted ground, you know, well, in this case, I guess it's the whole house because his house is still standing. So it's just a tainted energy stains affecting current tenants.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely possible.
Yeah.
This energy does absorb into the woodwork of a house.
Oh, Patrick corrected us. It's Deep Creek Vintage, not Belgrove.
Yeah, Deep Creek Vintage.
Yeah. So, I guess that about wraps us up. I mean, we could keep going back and forth with investigation stories and chit-chatting, but we'll stay in touch. In fact, please do. And if anything new happens and you'd like to come back on, I'd love to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you so much for letting us look at that picture. It was super cool.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Hey, I was a lot cuter when I was 10.
Oh, come on, no one's...
I'm totally cool with that.
The only thing anyone's judging is that shirt. Is it velvet or cotton?
Probably polyester. Hell if I know.
Polyester. Well, I'm sure you may stumble across it on eBay or something if you look.
Oh yeah, yeah. Right on. I love your face.
Well, it's the only one I got.
Gotcha, gotcha. All
But
right, but yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, thanks so much. We'll definitely stay in touch. I loved talking to you. Super interesting and a lot of same like I just really appreciate you harping on like the respect and history and some of the same points that I have often felt like I'm the only one harping on. So I really appreciate you. Uh,
No, you're not. And just so you know, there are a lot of people um, in those big limelights that feel the same way, but
but you get stuck, right? And it becomes like if you leave, it's like gang being in a gang almost. Like if you leave, you're ruined, right? And
yeah,
then you have no respect, and people will actively try to tarnish your reputation forever and ever,
yes.
right? So
But
it
if you look
sucks.
at, Nick Groff left the Ghost Adventurers some time ago, and Nick has done amazing things for himself. So just remember that, if you find yourself in a situation where you do hit the limelight and you end up leaving the team, that doesn't mean it's over.
No,
No, don't give up. Or as that one movie said with Tim Taylor, never quit, never surrender.
exactly, exactly. I mean, if you have a
Yeah,
passion,
follow it.
live it, go for it, follow it, do the thing, and be you. And people are gonna be nasty about it because they don't have the courage to go after their own
Exactly.
passions. So it's all
Exactly.
right. Bullies are gonna bully, but just we can put blinders on and just do our thing.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. Well, I will. Well, okay. Well, Wade is saying, Stan, if you want a hotspot, come check out my house. So now you have an open invite, I suppose, for an investigation there.
All right. Do you have rum?
Hey, Wade, Stan will come if you have rum. FYI. He's not picky. He didn't specify what type. Just rum. It's a pirate thing.
It's a pirate thing.
It's a
See,
pirate thing.
I got Fred back here. He's a pirate.
Very good. Bring him. Y'all can have a little dead
I
party.
can't believe nobody that knows Fred didn't say hi to Fred. I mean,
Yeah.
really? Everybody
Yeah.
knows.
You had a couple of your friends here and nobody seemed to notice. I guess they were all more interested in your hat.
Yes, they love Roxy.
That is the point of focus here. All right, sir. Well, I will let you go. Again, it was a pleasure speaking to you and we will stay in touch.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
So that was the very, very knowledgeable and entertaining Stan Miles. I really liked seeing the photograph. It's one thing to be able to even remember your own experiences because in the moment you're terrified or confused or maybe you're very passive about it, right? But so it's impressive to recall all the details of an experience, but to also have a photograph to back up your story. That's awesome. And when I first saw that picture, I was being myself. This was like maybe the first or second conversation I had had with Stan, and I said to him, very dryly, no emojis, no nothing. I just said, in the original image there, it just looks like there's a stain on the wall, where he was saying there was a face. And I said, in the negative, things can look different than they really are. And also, that picture was very grainy. So it's possible that maybe things are looking differently than they really were. Because, like I said, second conversation, first conversation, something. So I was just like, I'm not sure. But he stood by it and he had the experience and he told us all about it tonight, and I really respect him after hearing that elaboration of his experience. And I am sure that wall was actually clean and not stained, and there's just some kind of anomaly there now after speaking with him, you know. But the only reason I get any bit of skepticism in me is because so many of us are looking for an experience or really, really fascinated with the paranormal, but have never had an experience. So the littlest thing out of place, you know, in a picture or on a recording or anywhere, you know, people who haven't had an experience, you know, they'll just say, oh yes, that must be a ghost or something, you know, because there's a lot of reasons and it gets really dark. But on the light end of it, people have just a desire to experience the things that they're attracted to, right? Like, you like to bake, so you want to experience, you know, the taste of a fresh baked cookie that you made, and you try, and like the cookie just sucks, and you're just like, oh well, it's wonderful anyway because I made it and I want to have this experience, you know. I want this, so I'm going to say yes. I baked a perfect cookie and it's amazing, you know. And you're just going to tell yourself that. And the same thing applies to a lot of the stories that I hear from people, and it's okay. Like, I can't discredit it. I can't say that for sure. I've been told nothing but tall tales. Who knows? Maybe everyone who has ever told me a paranormal story has really had something paranormal happen. But it's like when things are always the same and it becomes predictable, you know? Someone says, oh yeah, you know, my mom's house is super haunted. I can go ahead and say, oh, by your grandma, and she, you know, died there. You know, that was her house. And then it was your mom's house, and, you know, so on and so forth. You can kind of tell them their story before they tell you, and they just go, oh, wow, okay, so you're psychic. And you say, no, this is just how these stories go, right? So I don't know that things really happen the same way so often, or if, you know, people hear a story and then they latch on to those events and start to manipulate the paranormal on their own. Yeah, Sergeant Poodlepants is saying, so that's why the room's gone. Well, it's not gone yet. Okay, they haven't actually done their investigation. But I would definitely say if it is indeed gone, the pirates have stolen it. Yeah, there's definitely a thing going on there. So that's my little rant for today. Today. That's today and tonight mixed into one. Thanks so much for those of you who did hang in there for the full show, almost 2 hours tonight. It's just not worth cutting people off, you know, when someone's got a lot to say and they're super interesting. You know, thanks for hanging in there, you guys, because I'm not gonna cut somebody off when they're on, you know, when I like what they're saying. Okay, Patrick with the rum punch. No. We've, maybe the pirates, maybe some for the pirates, leave it out for them as an offering, but you should not actually have any yourself because, I mean, it's delicious to the point that you don't even know there's alcohol in it. Very dangerous drink. I do not suggest it. In fact, my house is dry. Okay? I don't drink at all. I do drink caffeine. That may be my only addictive substance that I ingest. Let's see. Wade, you say, so your house was built in 1883 and it sits where the Confederate field hospital was for the Battle of Eltham, and it still has earthworks on the property. Wow. And you found bullets while gardening. That's awesome. I think, at least from the secondhand perspective, it's awesome. Um, Hopefully everything there is friendly, and you don't have a problem with anything. Let's see. You say it's also been a doctor's office. Wow. Well, good on you for knowing the history of your house. It's fantastic. And if Stan does investigate, I expect a full report and another interview. So that is it for me tonight. Please, please, please go over to the Patreon site and consider registering there. It's the bottom tier is $5. It goes up from there. Please give as much as you are able to for as long as you're able to. And if you don't want to, do it indefinitely, because it's automatic, payments. If you don't want to do it indefinitely, just cancel. Okay, cancel at the end of whatever month you decide that, whatever. I appreciate you for however long you can be a Patreon, and there are tier level rewards for for each level, of course. So the shadow tier right now, we have 3 Patreons. We have Lisa Rambo, we have Haven Van Heusen, and we have Chris Geyser. They receive special access to full-length videos where they can help listen for EVPs and look for visual anomalies and whatnot. And also, they have special access to all EVPs that I get on investigations. Okay, those won't be posted anywhere else except Patreon, just for those who register. Go to the Teespring store, check out all the cool stuff. I just uploaded a bunch of new face masks and fanny packs and t-shirts and blah blah blah. And on the Facebook page, I have some lovely models who have purchased from the Teespring store and have shown off the goods on their selves. Yeah, so do that. The links are in show notes, of course, as always, and I am looking for more interviews, so please message me or email me, paraann@cwtd.co. And I think within the next 24 to 48 hours, I'll have this edited and up on Spotify for those who want to re-listen, just the audio without the visual. But it'll also be on YouTube, as soon as I hit end, for those who want to rewatch the visuals. Alright, so I'm gonna go do my post-show chat thingy-mabob that I usually do. That'll be on Coffee with the Dead's Facebook page. I'm going to do it via Facebook Live. That seems to have been working out really well. Let's see. Wade says I might want to consider another pay site. Patreon is about to be. Hey Wade, I appreciate the tip. I kind of want to know more about that. So if you could send me a message, please, Paraann on Facebook. I'd be interested to see what you mean by Patreon being royally screwed soon. And I think that's all for me. Yeah, I'll be over on Facebook Live for those who want to follow up after the show. So, as always, thanks so much for watching and supporting, even if it's not through YouTube. Just if you're just listening through Spotify or any other podcast service, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And until next time, remember, the veil is thin.